welcome to Midweek Matters. Tonight, we are very excited to have the first in our speaker sessions on what I've learned. Georgia Hammer, a long-standing Midweek Matters member of the community here, is going to share with us about cerebral visual impairment. So Georgia is 30, lives in Exeter with her, and she grew up with two older sisters. She has complex needs, but doesn't let that affect her life. And she's currently doing a module in psychology with the OU. She was born with very complex cerebral palsy, which includes a condition called cerebral visual impairment, which is the condition she's going to share with us tonight. She's actually registered as blind, which she will share and explain a little bit more as we go along. So it's my great pleasure to invite Georgia to be our speaker tonight on Midweek Matters. Over to you, Georgia.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Georgia, as Miriam said, and I have a very complex situation with cerebral palsy. It affects my entire body, but it also affects my eyes because my brain doesn't really compute with what it's seeing. So, for example, the entire world to me is flat and I can't see in 3D, which makes traveling about independently very tricky at times, and I can't really drive out and about in my chair because it ends in a bit of a disaster at times because I fall off the curbs, because that's another thing, I can't see the depth of curbs, so it causes me to not know where the edge of the road is, so I fall off. So I have to be verbally told where every accessible bit of pavement is, and I can't, and I struggle to read stuff in very small writing, and my phone is like the biggest it can be because I can't actually see it if it's any smaller. And yeah, basically my eyesight affects me more than my actual physical ability, especially when I'm out and about because I can't see anything really.
And can you tell us, Georgia, when did you start realizing, or when did your family start realizing you had a problem with your vision?
When I was born, because I was always crying a lot of the time, and because I have two able sisters, my mum was able, her only 3 and a bit years older than me between them, my mum was able to be like, there's something not right, because I was fine at night, but I would scream and cry in the day, because if it's too busy with like crowds, or even if the room's too full of people, I can't follow. So I get overwhelmed really quite easily. So I would cry an awful lot. I wouldn't be able to feed because of my swallowing, but I also wouldn't be able to feed because I couldn't see where it was coming from. So my mum and dad knew very early on, because that was what I first did an operation on, because I had sprints when I was born. So to correct it, they had to do eye surgery twice. Once because I actually needed it, but the second time for cosmetic reasons. But yeah, if I was in the dark, I'd be fine. But if I'm in the day, I couldn't see. So that was when my mum basically knew from a very early age, to be fair.
And then what I'm interested also in is, so obviously, so then they worked out that there was a problem with your vision, but it's not that you can't see. It's the processing part of your brain. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is it the processing part of your brain that's affected, or is it
It,
the eyes?
it's actually, it's both, but it's technically what my eyes is telling my brain can't then compute into like a image. So there's too much damage to the visual part of my brain for it to like compute what's happening. So
And
kind of.
and when at which point, because what I'm also really I find amazing is that you are at, you know, as you were talking, I was thinking, well, she texts when we've been on Midweek Matters before, she's texting. And now you're saying to me that, you know, you need your print really big. So I'm thinking, wow, that is a real, like, that's hard work to do
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
So,
very hard work, which is why
but
we're very
you're,
often.
you're also doing a module at OU.
Yeah.
And so, which can you explain to me a little bit, or can you explain to us a little bit about the journey from your mum realizing that there were visual issues to you being able to, you know, work out how you could see things and the reading and everything like that?
Yeah. Basically, to start with, my mum is just very determined, as am I. So, she fought from an early age to get me where, like, the education and the stuff I have today to be able to live my life. But it's never easy, to be fair, and uh, as my carers and family will tell you, my messages are sometimes gobbledygook because I press random keys with my fingers, but that's also because I can't necessarily see them, which is fun. But yeah, it was basically a lot of determination, and something I forgot actually is I wasn't actually officially diagnosed until I was 15 with having a visual issue. It was mainly, uh, they always knew I couldn't see in 3D. Don't ask me how, but they did. And then when I was 15, about to go to college, they said, well, my pediatrician at the time said, you can, I think you'd be able to get into the blind school. And I was like, how? Because, like, little did I know that I actually have a condition. And they were like, you can get in via this. We just have to diagnose you. And it turned out that, yeah, I am actually able to be registered visually impaired. But like I say, it took until the age of 15 for someone to be actually like, that's why you can't see the curves, because my mum and dad were always asking me things like, when you come out of the house, why do you always crash into the road and stuff? And I try to think I can't actually see it, but obviously being a kid, they thought not that I was making it up, but they weren't entirely sure because they were like, but apparently your eyes are fine, and because that's the other thing with CBI, my eyes themselves are actually fine. It's what the messages are being sent to them. So yeah, I think the reason why it took so long is I confused everyone for a while because I made it work. So I think they all got a bit confused as to how and why I am quite so blind as I am.
And Georgia, can I ask, CBI, is that for the people that don't know so much, is that quite common with cerebral palsy? Do you know if there are lots of people that have that issue? Is it something that the doctors are looking for, or is it quite rare?
They're looking for it more now, but back when I was diagnosed, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was a fairly new thing, because my pediatrician mentioned it as like not as like an aside, but she mentioned it as like a this might be you. So I think it was a fairly new thing back then, because obviously my parents were asking, why can't she go out independently despite my level of disability? Because as you are probably aware, most people with my, or some people with my level of disability are able to like access the world independently to some extent, but I can't, mainly because the two kind of cancel each other out. So yeah, I think that's why. So to answer your question, I think it's a fairly new thing. Well,
And do you know anything about how many people are affected, or?
I don't, but I know there's like 4. Well, in Devon in my class, there was about 4 people that had it to varying degrees, because it, as with all cerebral palsy things, it's a varying degree thing. So I'm not as bad as some of the people I know, and they're not as bad as me. So I think there was about 4 people in the entire college for like the blind. So I don't think it's that common. I think it's becoming more common now. Like every time I go on a forum, there's someone asking about it. So I don't think back when I was diagnosed it was common, but I think it's more common now as they're working out why the brain doesn't necessarily see what it should be seeing.
That makes a lot of sense. And can I ask you, what sorts of things that you do that make you? I can hear that some things are, or things, life can be really difficult navigating CP and a visual impairment. But what kind of things help? What do you do that makes it easier?
A lot of my life is done auditorily, but not that that's a word, but yeah. A lot of my life is done via my ears, because I can't, because there's a thing in the visual impairment world where another sense takes over, and for me that is definitely my ears. My ears are like what keeps me safe, because if I listen to like my carers or my family when I'm out, I have to, because otherwise I can't negotiate driving, because I can manage to drive my own chair, but I can only do that if I listen to the people around me, which is interesting. When it's quite funny to watch, because I don't look like I'm blind, but if you hear my carers when I'm out and about, you can tell, because they're always like go right, go left. But if I don't listen to them, then I'm not very safe. So I've learned to use my ears for everything.
I always find that fascinating, how our brain rewires and helps us in certain ways, doesn't it?
Yeah. Even like driving down the corridor, I know where my bedroom is, but if my eyes are really bad, I can't see. So I just kind of go off by where I know the bedroom is, because my specialist lady that came when I first got diagnosed said count the doors to your bedroom. So I know it's like 4 doors away. So if my eyes are really bad, I just count until the end of the corridor. I I know where I am.
Do you have any other strategies like that you use?
I use on my phone when I type messages. Sometimes I use the voice control, because then when I'm using my voice, I don't need to use my mouth. So most of my messages are voice control, because it's a lot easier, because I don't have to try and coordinate the two at once.
Yeah.
And a lot of stuff in my life is voice controlled or ear controlled.
And is that how you navigate your the college work, or when you were at school, your schoolwork? How was that?
I used to do a lot of what's called dictation. So I would dictate everything. So my hours at school took me literally hours to dictate half page of work, because my coordinating my muscles with my eyes just doesn't do it. So I learned the easiest and fastest way is for me to dictate a message, or even now I'll be like, can you help me write this if it's a long bit? Or I'll think my mum and dad, I'm gonna turn voice control on, please be quiet, because if I have voice control on and they're talking, it picks up their conversation, and then people are like, what did you say? And I'm like, oh, sorry, the phone picked it up. But yeah, so I learned kind of very early on that my eyes weren't going to be the way forward. So I learned to voice control stuff.
I'm interested, Georgia, that you weren't officially diagnosed until you were 15. But I'm presuming, I'm making huge presumptions here, so I apologise that there was some realization at school that your vision was difficult for you.
There was, but like I say, no one could name it, because they were like, it's easier for you on yellow, because all my work, if it's written, has to be on yellow paper, and like messages have to be on yellow font and stuff. So, but there wasn't like an official reason why. So I think people were just guessing and hoping that something would help me, more than being like, oh, that's what it is, so we can help you. But now I know what it is. I can like say to people, this is what you need to do.
And do you think that having had a label or a name for the diagnosis then opened up other doors for you, or did it not change very much?
100% it opened up doors, because people were able to be like, oh, it's not just you being, I hate the word difficult, but it's not just you being annoyed, trying to like pull a fast one. It's an actual condition you have, and it 100% made my life a lot easier to be able to be like, oh, that's why. And then as soon as I could tell people, they were like, oh, okay, so your glasses don't actually help you. And I'd be like, no, my glasses don't actually help me at all, really. Well, they do, because I've also got long sight. But it's not just that. So I think people were a lot more understanding when you check around the blind label, than more than let me explain to you for like half an hour, because a lot of people don't understand or haven't tried, but they know what blind means. So it's a lot easier to be like, oh, that's what that is.
It won't surprise you to hear me ask this question. What do you think could be done differently, or would be more helpful in terms of kind of raising awareness of the multitudes of ways that CP can affect you, particularly with your eyes?
I think a lot of people need to realise that when I say I can't see you, I literally can't see you. So if you're like sat to my right or my left, I can't see. So you have to be kind of in front of me, or at least tell me you're there, because if you're in my blind spot, as they call it, then I literally don't know that, and that makes me startle. But if you like announce, it sounds a bit dramatic, but if you announce that you're there, it's a lot easier, because then I can try and speak to you. But it's not, it's like speaking to like air, because you can be there like 1 minute and then not be there the next, and I'll be chatting away, and then the person will come back and be like, you've just been talking to yourself again, and I'm like, oh yeah. So yeah, announcing that you're there is really helpful, especially when I'm tired or ill, because if I'm tired and ill, it gets a lot worse, and there's no real point in me trying to use my eyes, because it doesn't do anything. It's not efficient, so I don't bother. But yeah, that would be what I would say.
And have your family, not just your parents, but have your family adapted since?
I wouldn't say adapted, but if I'm like, I can't see it, they're not like, well, not that they were in the first place, but they're not like, it's over there, why can't you, like, hello? But now they know, they're like, oh yeah, it's right in front of you to your left. Like, they weren't trying to be mean, but because no one labeled it, they didn't know. So I think, not in a bad way, but I think people thought I was like lying when I said I couldn't see.
And have they got used to announcing their
Yeah.
presence?
Yeah, you kind of get used to shouting at me and saying, I'm here, or like if there's a group of us, they kind of got used to slyly telling me who's in the room and stuff, because if there's a lot of people, because I also can't track, I find it very hard to work out where people are. Like, not so much on Zoom, but in real life, if there's a group of people and say I'm trying to find my carer, it's like, oh, where have they gone? Because I can't recognize faces far away either. So it's very hard for me to negotiate life without people like doing my little tricks of the trade and announcing where they are. It's quite funny because everyone that knows me now kind of randomly announces, even if I'm not with them. Like, my sister said she found her something at this. She was walking around somewhere with her husband, and he was like, where are you? And she was, I'm here. And she lived with me all the time. She like learns to randomly announce herself.
Can you see like bold colors?
Yeah.
Because you always, one of the things I always remember when I've seen you is that there are lots of colors there. So
yeah,
if your carer was wearing like a bright colored t-shirt, would that be easier to see them in the room?
sometimes, but not all the time. But yeah, color really helps me. It doesn't help all blind people, but it really helps me because I can pick you out and work out where you are, and not necessarily follow you because I'm rubbish at tracking, but I can kind of negotiate where you are and stuff a lot more than if you're just wearing like white or something. White's a really bright color. I don't really know why it exists, but it's a really bad colour for finding people.
Wow.
And Georgia, before you stop getting quizzed by Miriam and me, and we open up the floor, I'm just really interested for you to tell everybody about your education journey and your module at university. I know it's something you're really proud of, and so you should be, but it's also been something you've had to negotiate quite a lot, isn't it?
Yeah. My education journey, interesting. In 2005, people had this great idea about mixing primary age kids with able-bodied children. In my area anyway, they put up a special unit and everything. It's now closed, but it's closed because it wasn't the greatest. So because they didn't do any forward planning and like educate the people in my year that I'd be coming full-time, because I only used to go to primary school part-time, but in high school the powers that be decided to chuck money at this unit thing, which on paper sounds like a great idea. In practice, not so much, because my entire year didn't talk to me for 5 years. But so I left with a handful of GCSEs, and it's taken to literally this year for me to be able to be recognised for the capacity and the brain level I have, because now I'm doing an access course in psychology and sociology with the Open University, and I must say they've been really great about all my adoptions, really, be that physical or my eyesight. If I'm like, I can't do this, or I can't like communicate that way, my tutor is really great at emailing me and deciphering my garbage, because sometimes it is like just get words down on the page, and she's very good at like being able to help me in the way I need help. So that's been going really well, and I've got my highest grade so far is 87 out of 100, and my lowest is like 82, I think. So yeah, it just shows what, with the like level of need that I have, it really shows that if you have the right like eyesight support, then it's really helpful, and you need an understanding person to be able to be like, this is what I need and this is why I need it, like, can you please do it this way? So yeah.
Well, it really saddens me to hear that you had such a tough time at school, but but then it really brings a smile to my face that you're doing this course and that you're doing so well. So well done. And that doesn't mean that isn't supposed to be patronising in any way, because I'm not sure I could do any more studying. So I'm in awe of anybody that is doing the studying. So well done, Georgia.